Eric, did we get
Let's go a Viking on Viking Hot Takes.
All right. It is Thursday, September 2nd, and welcome everyone to the final 2021 offseason episode of Viking Hot Takes, the fast-moving Minnesota Vikings talk show. We've got Eric Thompson from Daily Norseman. We've got me, Flip Mazzi from Clown in the Pocket. And we've got the fans in the comments. So buckle up and let's go. Eric, I don't even know what to say. What a week, man.
It was crazy. We had a lot of events going on with the roster and the cuts and the non-cuts and he's back on the team though, maybe he isn't. It was kind of like a musical chairs game. But this is the last Thursday, and we got the Gophers going on right now. They're still battling. They're keeping it close with Ohio State. And next, in a week from today, a week from right now, America's team will be taking on the Dallas Cowboys. See what I did there? Yeah.
I saw what you did there.
We got the Bucks and Cowboys next week. It's going to be. I cannot wait. There are a ton of questions to be answered, but we actually get to start answering them in 10 short days. The Vikings are taking the field in Cincinnati. I am pumped.
The real games. I'm pumped as well. So I mean, let's finish out the offseason in style. Eric, Dave, let's get the clock going, and we're gonna do it just like we always do. So first question, Eric, and you'll learn about me during the season. You know, I'm all about the matchups. Football is 11 different battles on 60 different plays with coaches looking for mismatches. Every single yard counts. So now when we start to talk about the games from that lens, when opponents line up against the Vikings offense, how do you think they're going to attack us?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be pretty similar to the way the defenses have attacked the Vikings offense in the last couple of seasons. I mean, that you want to stop the run, you want to keep Dalvin Cook from getting going. You want to contain Jefferson and Thielen as much as you can and make them, not make enough big plays to beat you, and get pressure on Kirk Cousins, especially up the middle. I mean, the splits are pretty stark when Cousins is under pressure versus not under pressure. If he has time to throw, go through his progressions, read what the defense is giving, he's a pretty darn good quarterback. But when he basically short circuits especially when pressure comes up the middle. So, and again, so the offensive line might be a little better this year. We don't know that yet, though. We have some new pieces in
Yeah.
place. Dakota Dozier is not in the starting lineup. He's all the way in the practice squad where he can't hurt us yet.
Yeah.
And but again, we have unproven entities. We have Oli Udoh, and making his debut at right guard. Got Cleveland moving over to the left. Rashad Hill, who has done pretty well as a swing tackle in the past, is going to be the starting left tackle, I think, until Darisaw comes back. There's a lot of questions still on the offense, and I don't think it's going to really be that much different than what we've seen. I think
Hmm.
the one the easiest way to beat the Vikings over the last couple seasons has been if you have some guys in the middle that can rush the passer consistently. That's always been their weak spot, and I don't know how much that will change this year. So if you face the Vikings over the last year and you're seeing them again, watch that tape back, and you may be throwing a couple wrinkles here. But I think the Vikings the book is out kind of on the Vikings offense, so we'll see if they can make any adjustments on their end. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the weapons are just so elite that it's almost not even worth a defensive time to try to stop, Dalvin Cook or try to match up against Justin Jefferson. Those guys, you have to put 8 players in the box for Dalvin.
Mm-hmm.
You have to roll coverage over to Justin Jefferson. And I think Adam Thielen deserves some respect too. So without Irv Smith, I don't think the Vikings have that sleeper on the weapon side to really take advantage of single man coverage. Adam Thielen, I think, can feast against single coverage and working across the middle of the field out of the slot. But it's really just that next guy. If we get anything from D.D. Westbrook or ISM, I think we're really dangerous. Or, like you said, if the offensive line holds up and is better against interior pressure, I think we can be really dangerous. So if we have the weapons, there's a real chance that defenses are going to have a tough time with the Vikings offense. Let's go to the next question.
All right, my first question for you. It was there's a lot to pick from, I think, for this answer. Which roster move this week surprised you the most? I mean, there are a ton of them that surprised me, but which one surprised you the most?
Yeah, and I love how the comments are going. We got Viking Jerome talking. We got Mary saying another season of worrying about the offensive line. Some things
Tale as
change,
old
some
as
things
time.
stay the
Yep.
same.
Yep.
Raymond, I see you too in there. No, let's get to your question though. All these moves, and to be honest, I'm not sure that I I can count every single one or even know all the moves. The one that stuck out to me, maybe because it was the most recent, is the punter. Uh,
Right.
this new guy, Jordan Berry. Britton Colquitt, we know he wasn't great last year. He finished 27th and 38 with 38 net yards per punt.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just got distracted by that Gophers touchdown. Now I got to move. He
Skayuma,
finished
back up.
he finished dead last in punts inside the opponent's 20. But the Vikings were pretty quiet. They didn't give him any real competition in camp. And all of a sudden, he's gone. He's out of here. So we've got an upgrade at punter. If y'all don't know about Jordan Berry, he doesn't have the biggest leg, but he's been way more accurate than Britton Colquitt. He's been way better with hang time and pinning teams inside their own 20-yard line, inside their own red zone. So it happened. I was still hoping the kicker, Greg Joseph, was going to get an upgrade from him, but Britton Colquitt, yeah, he's no longer in purple, and that surprised me.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely that was on my list too. Like all the
Yeah.
specialist roulette. I mean, if I thought Colquitt was the safest out of the three specialists, and Joseph was the only one that didn't spend time off the roster. Colquitt was on, then he's off, then he's off, on, and off again, and now Joseph's just kind of sitting there like, okay, all right. And again, that could change before week one, the way that they've been kind of playing roulette there. I thought the trade for Herndon, that was pretty surprising, especially kind of what they gave up. I'm not a huge fan of giving up a fourth, even though they got a six back. Again, the comparison is like, well, the net cost is kind of like what they paid for Davidson, who just snuck on the practice squad. Not kind of not the point, but like,
what do you think the grade there is? What would you grade that trade for Chris Herndon?
Well, we got to see how Herndon plays. I mean, the book on him for 3 years in a row has been he's a promising tight end. He had a good rookie year, and then of course Adam Gase came to town in New York, and that's, I feel like, that's kind of.
Oh man, did I get cut off?
My vid.
I think Eric's having bandwidth issues.
We just lost Coach Thompson.
Now you see half of me. Hey.
Everybody say hi to Dave. Dave, you got to finish. Oh, he's
there
back.
We go. All right, okay. Am I back now?
You're back.
Okay. Yeah, this must be a bandwidth thing on my end. My bad. The take was so hot that it melted. But I was on the grade I give for Herndon. We'll see. It's a TBD. I think he can be involved in the offense. My first impression is kind of like a C- kind of trade. I'm not incredibly thrilled, but that can change. He could be a big part of the offense. We don't know that. But of course, I can't. If we're still on the best roster move, we got an NDSU bite. Someone from my school, from North Dakota State. We got him. That was my favorite part. Like, the fact
that was nice. He had a chance there before the big trade, but he can still. We believe in those Bison.
Yep, exactly.
Let's go to the next question. So this is just a question about X factors. 2021 season, one guy can change everything. One guy can either put this team in the dumps or take them to the top. So who do you think the biggest X factor, or what do you think the biggest X factor for Minnesota is?
Well, I think you touched on it a little bit. I think the biggest X factor is whoever lines up next to that X wide receiver. Like, it's whoever that third wide receiver is going to be. I really think that's going to be kind of a make or break part of this offense, because if it's just Cook and Jefferson and Thielen you have to worry about, and no one else is really stepping up, that's a lot easier to solve than if you have that fourth piece that can consistently catch passes. That could be. I saw in the comments, Conklin needs to step up. I think he could have a big year. He showed, that's the kind of the favorite thing for Conklin. If you extrapolate the stats that he did have over a full season, they're pretty good numbers when he actually does play a lot of snaps. But if it's not Conklin, there has to be someone like Dede Westbrook, Amir Smith-Marset. They have to have that third main option in the offense, especially in that passing attack. They're kind of going to probably be forced in a lot of the three wide receiver sets. It was kind of funny in Zimmer's press conference yesterday, but it seemed like it pained him to say that we're going to have to use more three wide receiver sets. But they're going to have at least one more dependable person through the air. I think that's the X factor for me. I think the defense is going to take a big step up. I think they're going to be in good shape. But if it's just and especially if Cook he's not without his own injury history. Thielen's missed games, and Jefferson, he can't do it all by himself. He's still in his second year, so I think that's having another dependable pass catcher, whoever that may be. Again, that's the X factor is unknown right now. So that's
who are you putting your money on though? Like, is it Westbrook? Is it Marset? Is it Conklin?
I would prefer Marset just from the flashes that he's shown. And it doesn't, but Westbrook seems like he might be the most plug and play ready, just because he's a veteran. He knows, he knows where everything goes and everything. And Smith-Marset sounds like there are still a couple things that he still needs to iron out with his game. So I'd give if Westbrook is healthy, if he's all the way back, I would assume he gets the majority of the snaps of that third wide receiver. But I mean, who it is, that's not really particularly important to me. Just that it is someone. That's they just need another option there. What's your X factor?
Yeah, Mr. Cartagena here is taking my takes, Slow down, Anthony. And Eric is looking at the wide receivers. I get that. I get the churn on the tight ends, all the new players on the defensive side of the ball. We've got to ground ourselves here. The X factor for the Vikings is and always has been the offensive line. I mean, come on. I mean, 4 draft picks among the starters. They're all homegrown, including Rashad Hill, even at this point. So can they play? Because if they can, if these investments start, bringing us some return, bringing us some profit, the Vikings literally have everything else they need at the top of the roster. So the X factor, did they finally get the offensive line right?
Right. And that's, again, we're not asking them to be the 90s Cowboys. We just want them to be not actively terrible, especially in the middle. And I think that's all the offense will need. All right. So for my second
I love it,
one,
Anthony.
yeah, back to the roster, like, so, or, well, yeah, to the roster and just kind of the team in general. What's your biggest concern about the Vikings heading into week 1?
I think right now we all have kind of our false pretenses about what's going to happen with the team this year. Once we start talking about week 1, I don't really have that many concerns because I can tell you my expectation week 1, they're going to hand off to Dalvin as much as they can. The defense should be able to, shut down Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, and we'll get into the details of that game next week. But I don't have any concerns about literally the games that are to be played. Long term, I think we can talk about big picture themes like being a little bit worried about starting with 2 games on the road, or the even bigger than that, just the defense. And what is the missing piece from that defense? It's making sure that the healthy players we have can actually be better than the 27th best defense in the league in 2020. How good can they be? I mean, I'm pretty confident that they can be middle of the road, but it would be really interesting because I think some people have them top 5, top 3 defense, and that's a little concerning for me. I think we need a top 10 defense to be able to contend, but I'm a little concerned that we don't have that we just have a middle of the road defense here, and that would be disappointing. What's your biggest concern, Eric?
Well, I think I'll go to the other side of the ball, but yeah, the defense, it's we can't just pencil in the defense to be a top 5, especially with how bad they are.
Yeah.
Again, the personnel is there on paper; they're going to be much better, but how much better is a big that's the big thing on that side. But I'll go to the offense. I think
Yeah.
this past week kind of just hammered home that this team is kind of painfully thin in a handful of areas, and tight end happened to be one of them. That Irv Smith one, that injury is really going to hurt. But again, I don't think the Irv Smith injury, there was a lot of doom and gloom on the timeline yesterday. Of course, I had to retweet the Venn diagram that,
the old
but
Venn diagram.
Yeah, it keeps on coming up way too often. But I don't think I don't think that Irv Smith injury is going to completely derail the season or make it impossible for the Vikings offense to move the ball or anything else like that. It just kind of made the degree of difficulty went up, and now the room for errors got a little bit less because of that injury. And depth and health, I mean, that's really going to come into play for the Vikings. They kind of have that stars and scrubs build. There's that first line on both sides of the ball is pretty impressive, but it gets pretty thin after that in a bunch of places. So, if they're dealing with the injuries that they had on the defense at the end of last year, they're going to really struggle. And again, you can say that about most teams. There's no perfectly built roster. But it's just that's what I'm concerned about is that offensive line gets banged up, or if Darrisaw's health, it takes a while to get back. Just the fact that there isn't a ton of room for error, and I think this team is going to be competing, but again, like, things can go sideways if some key players go down. So that's basically they have to stay relatively healthy, especially compared to last season and other seasons that they've had the injury bug. They got to, and again, there's not a whole lot you can do, and I'm never gonna blame the coaches for playing Irv Smith, especially since there was no play that he got like definitively hurt on. It was basically like, oh, I hurt my, after the game, it's like I hurt my knee. So yeah, it's the margin for error is small, especially I think on the offside, and I mean there's definitely space for regression on that side of the ball.
Every time a player gets up slowly, we're just going to be really, really nervous about it.
Uh-huh.
You're going to put the beer down. You're going to be pacing. It's just the way that this season's going to go. We are
Yep.
short on time.
Okay, got to fly
Real
through these
quick,
last two.
Eric, where are you watching the games this year, man?
Well, I mean, most of them, I'll probably be about one flight of stairs down here and about 40 feet over here on the couch. I got the big screen. I'll be there. Like again,
Yep.
I'm sure I'll go to a couple home games. I'll go. I already have tickets for Lambeau at on January 2nd. Going with a bunch of friends to that.
Wow.
Gonna brave the elements out there, and tentatively still going to the Chargers game. Still haven't made final plans yet because I want to see if LA
Yeah.
is still open in November. That'd be nice to have that. So, but
Yep, that is
yeah,
an issue.
most weeks, especially when it's like a Sunday noon game, I like that kind of Sunday routine. I'm plopped down, making got the big screen, got some snacks, and firing out overreactive dad jokes and tweets on on the phone on the side. So that's it's still like
Yeah,
that's kind of the in-person experience is great, and I'm sure I'll do it a few times. But most days I'll probably be right at home and maybe hosting some people over. What are you?
definitely.
Do you have your Sunday routine, or you kind
Well,
of mix it?
we'd love to have you down in LA in
Hmm.
November, Eric. But I understand we gotta weigh all options. I had a moment after last year. I was like, you know what? After watching just the Vikings go 1-5 in the midst of COVID, everybody's watching at home. I thought to myself, we're going to the bar in 2021. We're getting out the house. The Vikings are going to be back. I'm back too. You know, then I got really excited. I got pumped when the schedule released. I started buying tickets, bought some pricey tickets. I'm not gonna lie, going to two games. And is it just me or did they raise the prices on Sunday ticket? Like damn, like we need to crush it on the show, Eric, because the price of fanhood is increasing.
It
So
is not a cheap endeavor, especially when you're attending in person. That's for sure.
long way of saying I'll probably be at home. I got the football and I've got the whiskey. That's how I watch the games.
Beautiful.
But hey, if anyone listening is in SoCal, hit me up. If you know where the Vikings bar is, I might make an appearance. We can watch a game together.
Love it. Okay, my final question. Pretty simple one.
Mhm.
Are the Vikings a playoff team as currently constructed? So we have our 53. It could
Mhm.
definitely still change between week 1 and it'll definitely change throughout the season. But as of right now, the roster that they have, are they a playoff team?
Yeah, I think this is without a doubt they're a playoff team. I think they have a little more exposure to injury than you would like. And we talked about that earlier in the show. But, just breaking down the rankings and the statistical rankings and the positions of importance, the Vikings are strong in all of those areas. I looked at it over the summer. That was even before we signed Sheldon Richardson, even before we brought in Everson Griffin. We're looking at, the eighth or ninth best roster in the NFL right now. So as long
Okay.
as they stay relatively healthy and as long as they get good coaching on both sides of the ball, they're a playoff team. They're better than the Seattle Seahawks. They're better than the San Francisco 49ers when you look at the roster. It really just comes
Ooh,
down to,
Niners.
again, that health factor and those X factors we talked about earlier, because they could swing the entire balance of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of the most of this offseason I've been at that 11-6, 10-7 mark. I still think it's the Packers division to win right
Yeah.
now, but
Yes.
I think the Vikings coming in as a wild card team. And again, you just get in the tournament. You never know when you get in there. I think there's a lot of jobs that kind of depend on getting in that tournament this year, especially the head coach and the GM. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, yeah, we've already mentioned the margin for error is pretty slim, but as of right now, I think this team is built for a playoff run. And
Yes.
look at that.
That's what I like
And
to
look,
hear.
right,
Boom. We're better
right
than the
at the
Niners.
buzzer.
We're better. We'll see week 3 against the Seahawks. But now, y'all
Okay.
stay tuned because it's time for Dave's extra point.
Hey, everyone. Those were 6 wonderful questions for Flip and Eric. They did well. They scored on all of them. That's 6 points. What happens when we score 6 points in a game? We have to go for the extra point. That's what this is. Brought to you by the fans wanting more. The extra point is going for 1. This time, the question is, with Sean Mannion being signed to the practice squad as QB2, are the Vikings adjusting their paradigm and using him more as a QB assistant on the sidelines and in the QB room, whereas QB1, Kirk Cousins, and QB3, Kellen Mond, will be the actual quarterback weapons? Flip, Eric, what do you think?
Why don't you take that one first?
Okay, I think it's a really good question, and I think Dave's on the right track there. I think that I mean, by all account, and Mannion knows the offense. He knows a lot of the personnel. He's familiar with where everything is, and the fact that he's on the practice squad right now, I think it serves 2 purposes. One is if there's any COVID things, they can activate him. They can bring him up. I think they get at least 2. He can be promoted from the practice squad. Hopefully, that's they don't have to utilize that part of it, but I'm sure that's part of the reason why he's on the practice squad. He'll be separate, from the 2 that have a pretty defined vaccination status. So I think it will be Mond and Cousins dressing for those games, while Mannion remains on the practice squad, only gets promoted as needed. But I think the other thing is that QB assistant. I think that's a really good term for Sean Mannion. It sounds like all accounts he, if whenever he decides to hang it up, he's definitely welcome in the coaching ranks. He's a very smart player, and it seems like they're going to utilize that. I could definitely see him being on a coaching staff, maybe the Vikings coaching staff going forward. I think that's why they brought Mannion back. That's why they got rid of Browning. Again, Browning did himself no favors in the preseason with how he played, and Mannion just being a familiar face and a familiar mind. I think that's really important for them. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I get so confused by all these QB numbers. I don't know even what QB2 versus QB3 means when QB2 isn't even on the actual roster.
Right.
But yeah, everything you said makes sense. The thing I like about the Mannion signing, and I know a lot of people were not happy that Sean Mannion's back in purple, but Eric's already got a painting of Sean Mannion, so he's here. Deal with it. What I love about it is it's okay to have a reassuring presence for Kirk Cousins during the games, on the sideline, during practice, to coach him while he's healthy. And I think Mannion has done a great job of that. He's been the guy behind Kirk Cousins, again, the guy in his ear during Kirk's best 2 seasons in the NFL. So why not have that continue? And then keeping Kellen Mond on the actual roster is pretty interesting. Sure, if Kirk gets injured, it's going to be Kellen Mond out there, and it's going to be an intense, frying pan, putting him right into the fire of the NFL if that happens. But also, there's opportunity here for Clint Kubiak to get really creative and start talking about, do we see Kellen Mond for 3 or 4 plays a game where he subs in? Do we see him in a wildcat package? Do we see some wrinkles in the offense that Kellen Mond can give you, but Sean Mannion and even Kirk Cousins can't? So it's a great setup. It saves a roster spot, and it gives Kirk Cousins what he needs to be the best version of himself.
I think that's a very reasonable answer. Not very hot takey at all. I think we kind of did that kind of logically. But hey, I think that's a strong opinion, and that wraps it up for us. I like the extra
that's 7
point.
points.
I think we did better than Dan Bailey on extra points. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
A touchdown,
we fared
baby.
better than most Vikings kickers. Yeah, hopefully the Vikings kicker, whoever it is, Joseph, can do that well on their extra points this season.
Yeah, well, hey, Eric, Dave, we made it. 7 months and roster cuts, free agency, the draft, minicamp, training camp, and roster cuts again. but that's all done. The off season is over. It's time to get on that purple roller coaster ride. So until next time, Skull Vikes and Dave, take us away.
Hey, like always, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and catch all of Climbing the Pocket products at usually their normal time next week, Sunday. I've talked to Darren Campbell today. He's going to take a break from his vacation, and he will be joining me for Two Old Bloggers, and we'll see how many changes happens between now and then, because I'm sure there's a few. Until then, everybody have a great evening. Eric, what's the score on that Ohio State Gophers game?
Ohio State just scored to go up, but we're going to be in a battle.
Oh.
Gus Johnson is announcing, so something's crazy is going to happen at the end of the game. So let's go try to get this upset, Gophers.
Hey, I want to thank all the viewers, and if you like the extra point, get in touch with me via Twitter or via email, and think about doing a video yourself that we can incorporate for that extra point.
You got to get the fans kicking that extra point.
That's
all right.
right.
Absolutely.
Skull, everybody.
Skull Vikes.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skull, everybody.